Moving on now, though, because a campaign has been launched in Kerry to reverse a decision to move residents from a much-loved centre for people with intellectual disabilities in Beaufort to dispersed housing in the community. St John of God's Services say the decision to move the 77 adults with intellectual disabilities from the St Mary of the Angels complex is in line with HSE and national policy. However, families of the residents who have lived at the centre for up to 40 years say any move would cause unnecessary stress and worry. Jack Fitzpatrick's son Bernard, who is 40, has lived in the centre since he was 5 years old, and I spoke to Jack before we came on air. I started by asking him to tell me a little bit about Bernard.
Bernard is severely and profoundly disabled. Bernard, he was born in August 1976, and unfortunately the doctor who was supposed to live with him didn't turn up, and it resulted in severe brain damage, and he's been in St Mary of the Angels since he was 5 years old.
All right, and what is life like to him, for him on a day-to-day basis?
It's actually, we couldn't wish for better than the way we have things. Bernard's mother takes him home about every second or third weekend to her home. Then he goes into St Mary of the Angels. He's got up every morning. He's dressed, washed and dressed, and he goes into his wheelchair, and he can move his wheelchair right around inside in his quarters. And he really has a great time. My role in it is that every time I'm passing from Carsmean to Killarney, wherever I'm going, I can drop in and I can take Bernard out in the beautiful grounds of St Mary of the Angels walking. Anytime I'm free to come and go as I please. I ring normally before I go in, not because I have to give them any warning that I'm calling, but because if I go in and I don't, he probably won't be there. He'll probably be gone into Killarney, into one of the coffee shops with his carer, or he could be gone into Killagher. It's totally free and easy, and it's just a perfect place.
So you say he's been there since he was 5 years old?
Yes, it's 35 years.
He's there 35 years. So, and like you say, he's only coming out very infrequently, really, every second or third weekend. So this is really his home.
He comes home to her on holidays, for his holidays, Christmas, summer, and every second or third weekend. And he's in St Mary of the Angels the rest of the time, in and out. We can drop in wherever we like and take him walking, all that sort of stuff.
All right.
Because the grounds are beautiful there.
Can you tell us a little bit about St Mary of the Angels then, in terms of the day-to-day care that he receives there?
Well, they have all the facilities they could possibly need there. They have a hydrotherapy pool. There's a school there for those that can go to school. There's a chapel there. There's beautiful walks on the grounds. There's every possible facility. There's physiotherapy. There's every type of service they could possibly, in amenity they could possibly want is in there. They have a sensory garden where you can go in and relax and whatever. It's just fabulous.
And given Bernard has been there since he was aged 5, I'm sure he has developed quite a lot of relationships with the staff there.
Well, this is it, and they're all friends. They meet each other when they're being taken out. Those that can walk are out on the grounds all the time walking around, and those that are in wheelchairs are taken around by their relatives and parents and by the staff out on the grounds. So they're all friends really at this stage in their own way, And they're just so happy there and so much at ease. It would be just a shame to scatter them all over the county of Kerry now,
When did you first find out about this plan to decongregate?
There was a meeting called on the 18th of September, which is at 6 o'clock in the evening, which it's an easy enough date to remember because it's the evening of the All-Ireland final. Kerry Miners were in the final this year and they won. But I found that kind of unusual to have a meeting called that evening on that particular date. But anyway, we went to the meeting, and the meeting was, which usually those type of meetings were, was about the day-to-day care and how things were going on and so on and so forth. And at the end of the meeting, I asked what were the long-term plans for St Mary of the Angels, and it was then that this bombshell was dropped on us. They told us that in line with national policy, all 77 residents would be moving out into the community.
So if you hadn't asked the question, this wasn't necessarily going to come up at that meeting?
No. What was happening at that stage was that the individual parents were being contacted by phone most of the time and being asked or told that there was a house in such and such a place and that their relative would be moving into it. All
right, so families are not being given a choice in this?
Well, they weren't at the beginning. What it has moved on since, and what we were told now yesterday, it was brought up in the county council yesterday, and what we are now told is that nobody will be forced to leave. But we've been told that by St John of God. It is still not coming from the HSE, who at the end of the day, I suppose, are the people who make the final decision.
And if Bernard was forced to leave, have you been given any indication as to where he would go?
There was talks about a house in Milltown. Now, Milltown is a village. It's about 20-25 minutes away from St Mary of the Angels, I suppose. It's a small village. It wouldn't have any of the services or amenities that are in St Mary of the Angels or in Beaufort, you know. It would be totally unsuitable for him.
What about the reasoning behind what the HSE is trying to do here, Jack? This idea that it's overcrowded, St Mary's is overcrowded, and the whole idea is moving people out into the community.
You see, we're not against community living. We are actually for community living, for those that will benefit from it. But the vast majority of people that are in St Mary of the Angels are severely and profoundly disabled. And they need a whole lot of services and facilities that they're not available anywhere else, scattered around the county of Kerry. The only place they're available is in St Mary of the Angels. So while it will work for some people, it will not work for them. And the other problem is, like, that this thing to move away from congregated settings, you know, this is the new slang word. And it's just a kind of a blanket thing, like it's kind of one size fits all, you know. Like, we don't see St Mary of the Angels as a congregated setting. We think that description is far, far too broad. Basically what that is saying is that any building that there's 10 or more people living in it, that it's a congregated setting. But like, if that's the case, there are lots of families with 8 children and parents, which is 10. So they're actually living, according to this document, in a congregated setting. It's crazy, like. It's crazy.
All right, so you have obviously no issue at all with a large number of people, 77 in this case, moving or living together. Bernard enjoys it.
It's difficult to describe it without you seeing St Mary of the Angels. It's a huge complex. It was a farm given to the nuns, as I say, years ago, and it's so vast and so big. And if there is extra houses needed, there's about 9 houses in this place, and there's plenty of room to build another house or two, you know, and it's completely open and free for people to come and go as they like. You know, it's not, when we think of institutions, we think of the old buildings that people usually with mental illnesses were living in, you know, but that's a completely different setup to what you're talking about here, you know. This is a home, you know.
And I think money has been raised actually to build one of those extra houses.
All of the houses that were built in St Mary of the Angels, really going back to when it started off in the late 60s, they've all been built by community money raised in County Kerry, and money is not an issue here. It's going to cost actually far, far less money to build the couple of houses that are needed in the grounds of St Mary of the Angels and continue as we are. Like, as we see it, like, why go fixing something that's not broken? There are loads of people with severe disabilities living out in the community around Kerry in desperate situations. People, there are parents who are struggling, single parents who have severe disabled people in their family who have huge issues, and like, they're the people that should be helped. That's who the HSE should be looking to, are those people, because our people have no problem.
What do you think would be the effect on Bernard, Jack, or how would he react if he was moved? It's very dangerous, because for not just for Bernard, but for an awful lot of them, they're there because, right, if you or I get a cold, we get over that pretty quickly. But if they get a severe cold or flu or something like that, they need physiotherapy, they need a whole load of stuff, and the only place they're going to get that is quickly and in time when they need it is inside St Mary of the Angels. Because if you start scattering these people into small towns and villages all over Kerry, like, there are towns and villages in Kerry that they don't even have a doctor. There's one particular town and they've only a doctor coming 3 or 4 hours a week. All right. Just finally then, what do you think the solution is at this point? Is the solution just for the change of policy?
Is to look at the policy again and just to try and you know, like, it's the description of congregated setting is too broad. Look, I'm sure that there are congregated settings out there around the country. And absolutely, where there should be something done about them. But St Mary of the Angels in Beaufort and County Kerry is not a congregated setting. It is a beautiful, fabulous home that is free. You're free to come and go as you please there.
And that was Jack Fitzpatrick telling me about his son Bernard and the St Mary of the Angels complex. We've asked the HSE for a response and we'll bring that to you as soon as we get it. We have a statement in, Chris, from St John of God's Community Services. It says St Mary of the Angels is not closing. The development plan highlighted in recent media coverage outlines what is required from a resource and planning perspective to fully implement the national policy in relation to decongregation as outlined in the HSE policy Time to Move On from Congregation Settings, a strategy for community living. living. St John of God Community Services is committed to facilitating residents to transition to community living over a period of time. This transition will take place in consultation with the person and their family members, and there are no alternative plans in place for the future use of the site at Beaufort. St John of God Community Services remains committed to providing services to people with intellectual disability in Kerry.
Yeah, OK, that statement just coming off that interview about 20 minutes ago.